let's get right into it today. We're going deep on a side hustle that I've seen all over the place. Have you heard of UserFeel?
Yeah, definitely. It's becoming pretty popular.
Yeah, and they have this guide called The 1,000 Ways to Hustle, and it's all about getting paid to test websites.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool idea because we all use websites, right?
At the time.
So why not get paid to give feedback, right?
Exactly. I mean, it combines making money with actually like having an impact. You're shaping how these websites actually turn out.
Totally. It's like those times using the website, you're just like, this is so frustrating. With UserFeel, you actually get to tell them how to fix it.
I like that.
Yeah. So at its core, it's all about usability testing.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of our listeners are probably already familiar with the idea of UserFeel and kind of the basics of usability testing. So what are some things that maybe aren't so well known that this guy kind of reveals?
Yeah. Well, one thing that really stood out to me in the guide was just like the emphasis on all the different kinds of usability testing you can actually do. Because a lot of people, when they think of usability testing, they just think out loud testing.
Oh, interesting.
But there's actually all sorts of testing. There's like moderated testing, A/B testing. There are even some companies that do eye tracking studies.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, as a tester, it's really helpful to understand all the different kinds of testing because you might find, you gravitate towards one type of testing or another, or maybe you just want to specialize in a particular type to kind of up your earning potential.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned a bunch of different types there. Moderated testing, you said A/B testing. I've mostly heard about the think out loud part. So how do those other methods work, and how can we leverage them as testers?
Okay, so with moderated testing, you're actually interacting live with a researcher, so it's a little more high pressure maybe, but it often pays better because you're giving more of your time and it's more involved.
Oh, okay.
And then with A/B testing, you're comparing two different versions of a website. So, one version might have the button on the left side and one might have it on the right side, and you're giving feedback on which version is more user-friendly. And I think that's a really fascinating kind of testing if you're someone who really likes to analyze design choices.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then eye tracking studies, it's not as common, but basically they use special technology to track your eye movements as you're browsing a website. And this allows them to see where your attention is drawn to, what you're focusing on. And it's just another way to really get granular insights into user behavior.
That is so cool. I honestly never even considered those options. I'm imagining that if you can specialize in one of these methods, it can make you really stand out as a tester, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody's doing that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the guide even gives some good tips on identifying your strengths as a tester and then figuring out what types of testing those strengths might align with. So you can kind of, play to your strengths and try to find your niche that way.
That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, let's say, for example, I'm interested in this A/B testing. What would make somebody really good at that? What kind of skills would you need to excel at that type of testing?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just having a really keen eye for detail. You have to be able to spot subtle differences between two versions of a website and then articulate how those differences actually impact the user experience.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then, of course, strong analytical skills are really helpful. You're going to be looking at data. You're going to be comparing things. You're going to be drawing conclusions. So, yeah, a good analytical mind definitely helps.
So it's not just about having an opinion. It's about backing up your opinion with actual observations and being able to articulate that well.
Right. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, the clients are looking for testers who can provide actionable insights, not just gut reactions.
Yeah.
And the guide actually gets pretty in-depth about techniques for writing effective feedback reports. So, it goes way beyond just saying this button is ugly.
Okay, I'm already starting to think back to all those times where I've been using a website and I was just like, ugh, and how I could have turned that frustration into constructive feedback and potentially get paid.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the really appealing things about this type of hustle is you're not just complaining, you're actually helping to make the internet a better place.
That's very true. Okay, let's talk about the qualification process. So the guide mentions this test. Is it really as easy as they make it sound?
I mean, easy is, a relative term, but it's definitely not about technical expertise.
Okay.
It's really about clear communication. Imagine you're trying to explain a website to someone who's never seen it before.
Oh.
You need to be able to describe it clearly, be organized in your thoughts, and articulate your ideas in a way that makes sense to someone else.
So you don't have to be like a coding whiz. You just have to be a good communicator.
Exactly.
That's good news. But do you have any, like, tips for acing that qualification test?
Yeah. Well, the best thing you can do is just practice. The
Yeah.
guide even suggests like recording yourself browsing a website and thinking aloud as you're doing it,
Oh,
because that can help you get used to like verbalizing your thoughts and doing it in a way that's clear and concise.
I feel like thinking out loud is actually a lot harder than it sounds.
It is, it is. And beyond practicing, just make sure you pay attention to the instructions really carefully because each test is going to have specific objectives that they want you to focus on. So before you start, clicking and commenting, make sure you really understand what they're looking for.
So it's not just about randomly browsing. It's about, like, having a structured approach.
Right, yeah, because that helps the clients get the specific feedback that they need to improve their website.
Okay. I'm starting to realize that this is a little bit more than I thought it was.
Hmm.
It's not just about pointing out, like, what's wrong with the website. It's about offering solutions and actually, like, being a part of that improvement process.
Yeah. And that's what makes it so rewarding. You're not just earning some extra cash, you're actually contributing to making the internet a better place for everyone.
That is a good point.
Hmm.
All right. So we've talked about, different testing types. We've talked about the qualification process, even some tips on communication and providing actionable feedback. What else does this guide reveal about, like, actually earning money with UserFeel?
Well, one thing they really emphasize is understanding the target audience for the website you're testing.
Okay.
Because different clients are going to have different needs, and if you can really understand who their target audience is, it'll help you to provide much more valuable feedback. Oh.
Oh, that's interesting. So, for example, if I'm testing a website for, like, a gaming company, I should be thinking like a gamer.
Exactly, exactly.
But-
So, you would use the lingo that gamers use, you would consider what gamers are looking for in a website, you would really try to put yourself in the shoes of that target audience.
Oh, that's such a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So it's not just about giving my personal opinion. It's about understanding the bigger picture and tailoring my feedback to that specific audience.
Right, because your feedback's only valuable if it's actually relevant to the people who are going to be using that website. And the guide even suggests doing a little research on the company and their target market before you take a test so that you can really understand their perspective.
Wow. Okay, so I'm kind of reframing how I think about this now. It's not just like being a critic. It's about being an advocate for the users of that website, making sure that their experience is good.
Exactly. You're like a user advocate, helping to make sure that the website meets their needs and expectations.
I like that.
And, clients are always looking for those insights that go beyond the obvious. So the more you can demonstrate that ability, the more valuable you'll be as a tester.
Okay, this is really interesting. I'm getting kind of excited about this, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about how I could leverage what I know and what I'm interested in to, find my niche like we were talking about.
That's great. I mean, this is just scratching the surface. The guide goes way deeper into like maximizing your earnings and really building a successful career as a usability tester.
Okay, so I'm ready to hear about all those advanced techniques. But before we move on to that, I think we should take a quick break and let everybody kind of digest everything we've talked about so far. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We talked about different types of testing, the importance of clear communication, even finding your niche. But let's talk about the money. Like, how much can you actually earn doing this? The guide mentions like $10 a test. Is that really realistic? Yeah, so $10 is pretty standard for those think out loud tests, the ones where you're basically just talking to yourself as you're browsing a website. But they also talk about these moderated tests where you're actually having a live conversation with a researcher, and those can pay way more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like sometimes $50, even $100, depending on how complex the test is and how long it takes.
Wow. Okay, so there's definitely potential to earn more if you're willing to, like, put in the time for those moderated sessions. But I'm guessing those are harder to come by.
They can be, yeah. They often have more specific requirements, like, they might be looking for people in a certain demographic or with certain expertise. And you also have to be available at a specific time, which can be tricky. But the guide has some good tips on, like, setting up alerts so you know when those tests become available.
Right.
And it also just emphasizes being proactive, checking the platform frequently and not just waiting for tests to come to you.
So it's kind of like anything else. The more you hustle, the luckier you get.
Yeah, exactly. It's about putting yourself out there and making yourself available for those higher paying gigs.
Okay, that makes sense. The guide also talks a lot about building relationships with clients. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So they really stress the importance of providing high quality feedback consistently. Like if you impress a client with your insights, your attention to detail, and just your overall professionalism, they're more likely to invite you back for future tests.
Oh, so if you build up a good reputation, you're more likely to get those higher paying moderated tests.
Exactly. It's like any other freelance gig. You build a good reputation, you do good work, and the better opportunities will come your way.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other tips on how to build those relationships?
Yeah, well, the guide even suggests reaching out to clients directly. Like, if you find a company that you're really interested in or that's in your niche, you can actually send them your portfolio of past tests and kind of pitch yourself as a tester.
So you're not just waiting for the UserFeel platform to connect you with clients. You're taking the initiative to find your own opportunities.
Exactly. You're in control of your own hustle, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
Yeah, I like that. It's like we're not just mindless testers, we're consultants offering valuable insights and expertise.
Yes. And the guide talks about really owning your expertise, not being afraid to challenge assumptions or offer bold solutions. Clients really appreciate testers who are willing to bring their own unique perspective to the table.
So it's not just about finding flaws, it's about thinking critically, being creative, maybe even coming up with solutions to those problems.
Absolutely. And they encourage you to think beyond the immediate task at hand. Really try to understand the user's goals. What are their pain points? How can we make their experience on this website or app more enjoyable and efficient?
I like that. It's almost like we're detectives trying to uncover clues and solve the mystery of user behavior.
That's a great analogy. And the guide even gives practical tips on how to read between the lines of user feedback. Like maybe there's a pattern emerging, or maybe there's something that's not being said directly. But if you dig a little deeper, you can uncover these really valuable insights.
This is so cool. So it's not just about testing websites. It's about understanding people and how they interact with technology.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about ratings. Because I know from using other platforms that your rating can really make or break your success. How important are ratings on UserFeel, and what can we do to make sure we're getting those 5-star reviews?
Ratings are super important. They're like your reputation on the platform. Clients are going to look at those ratings when they're deciding who to hire, so you definitely want to aim for those 5 stars.
But what are they looking for? What are the criteria that they're using to rate us?
Well, they highlight a few key things.
Right.
They want to see clear, concise feedback. They want to see that you're able to follow instructions. They want to see overall professionalism. And it's also really important to provide actionable insights, not just vague opinions.
Okay, so be specific, be constructive, and offer solutions, not just complaints. And I'm guessing being professional throughout the whole testing process is important.
Oh, absolutely. They want to see that you're reliable, that you're respectful of their time, and that you're taking the process seriously. The guide even says to avoid using slang or overly casual language because it can make you seem less credible.
Okay, so professionalism is key. But what if you make a mistake? What if you miss a step or you misinterpret an instruction? Can you recover from that?
The guide actually acknowledges that mistakes happen, and they say that the best thing you can do is just be honest about it. If you realize you messed up, don't try to cover it up. Just acknowledge it, explain how you'll fix it, and move on.
So it's about owning your mistakes and showing that you're willing to learn and improve. I like that.
Yeah, because clients understand that we're all human, and they appreciate testers who are transparent and accountable for their actions.
Okay, good to know. But let's be real, we all want those good reviews, right? We want to build up that stellar reputation. So any pro tips on going above and beyond to impress clients?
Yeah. So one thing the guide suggests is offering unsolicited feedback. If you're going through the test and you notice something that's not directly related to the task at hand, but you think it could be improved, mention it. It shows that you're really paying attention and that you're invested in making the product the best it can be.
Oh, that's a really good tip. It's almost like bonus insights.
Exactly. And it shows that you're not just going through the motions, you're really thinking critically about the website as a whole.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired to step up my testing game. I'm already thinking about how I can personalize my approach, tailor my feedback to those specific audiences we talked about, and just really go the extra mile to impress clients.
I love that. And, this is really just the beginning. The guide goes into even more depth about building a portfolio, networking with clients, and even negotiating higher rates for yourself.
Okay, now we're talking. I want to hear all about those advanced techniques. But before we jump into that, I think we should take a quick pause and let all of this sink in. So stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to unlock those secrets to turning casual clicks into a serious side hustle. Okay, we're back, and I'm ready to take this UserFeel hustle to the next level. We've talked about acing those tests, boosting our ratings. Now, let's get strategic. How do we turn this from a fun little side gig into something more serious?
Well, the guide dives into that, and one of the most interesting parts is about building your own brand as a tester. Like, it's not just about taking any test that pops up, it's about really positioning yourself as an expert in something specific.
So instead of just being like a general tester, I should focus on becoming the go-to person for testing, say, e-commerce sites or maybe mobile games.
Yeah, exactly. Think about your passions, what you already know a lot about, where your skills really shine. And the guide actually suggests creating like a separate website, a portfolio to show off your expertise and maybe even testimonials from happy clients.
Well, that's a smart idea. It's like a resume, but specifically for usability testing.
Right. It shows that you're serious about this and not just doing it randomly.
Yeah.
And it helps you stand out, which is super important because there are tons of testers out there.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know what else? They also talk about going beyond the UserFeel platform to find clients. Like, think about companies in your niche that might need testing. You can reach out directly, tell them what you offer. You might land some really great gigs that never even make it to the UserFeel marketplace.
So we're not limited to just the tests on the platform. We can create our own opportunities. That's pretty cool.
Totally. It's about taking charge. And they even suggest going to industry events, networking with other people who do usability testing. You never know what could come from that.
So it's like building this whole ecosystem, your brand, your portfolio, your network.
Exactly. It's more than a side hustle. It can be a sustainable business if you approach it the right way. And the guide has advice on stuff like setting your rates, negotiating, even managing your time as a freelancer.
Okay, so this is making me think bigger. It's not just about a few extra bucks. It's about building something real.
And that's where the real satisfaction comes in, I think. It's about having the freedom and flexibility to be your own boss, work on stuff you're actually interested in, and actually make a difference.
I love that. Okay, before we wrap up, let's look ahead. The guide talks about the future of usability testing. Any predictions?
Well, one big thing they emphasize is that specialized testers are going to be in higher and higher demand. Like, as technology keeps changing, they'll need experts who can give really specific feedback, maybe on certain platforms, certain devices.
So if I'm thinking long term, I should really hone in on a niche that's only going to get bigger, like maybe VR or AR or even voice interfaces. Those are going to need testing.
Exactly. Stay ahead of the curve. That's the key. And they also predict that remote testing is just going to keep growing, which is great because it means we can work from anywhere.
So this is a hustle that has legs. It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
And anyone can do it. You don't need some fancy degree or years of experience, just a computer, internet, and the willingness to learn.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I've gone from like someone who just knew a little about UserFeel to actually having a plan.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks for breaking all of this down.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is actually taking action. Don't just think about it, do it.
Yeah, put it into practice, try different things, see what works for you.
Exactly. And to everyone listening, go embrace your inner usability guru. Turn those clicks into a side hustle that's both fulfilling and, profitable.
Because your feedback really can shape the digital world one test at a time.
So true. On that note, we'll say goodbye. Keep hustling, keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.